People who work with their hands in a factory, a warehouse, on a building site might have watched AI disrupt office workers and thought, that won't happen to me. But the next wave of AI doesn't write emails. It drives lorries, it picks orders, it builds things. In this video, we'll look at what physical AI actually is, why it's happening right now, and what I think is the best way to position yourself as an investor. This is certainly one of the biggest investment themes of the next decade. Now, before we get to robots, let's quickly remind ourselves where we are with the first wave, which is the digital AI one. And if we look at this figure beside me, you can see two columns. On the left, the jobs that digital AI has already hit, and that's knowledge workers. So that would include, for example, customer service teams, copywriters, junior developers, bookkeepers. And then on the right, you can see the jobs that physical AI is now coming for, what I'm calling skilled trades. That would include warehouse pickers, delivery drivers, factory assemblers, and eventually even care workers. Now, what's interesting here is how many people the right-hand column represents. Retail, hospitality, and food service alone is roughly 12 to 15% of the UK workforce. Care workers are another 6 to 8%, and that's because the digital wave hit the minority who work in offices. Physical AI comes for everyone else. So what's actually changed? Because robots aren't new. We've had industrial robots in factories for decades. What's different now? Well, if we look at this figure, you can see the old way on the left. Traditional robots needed three completely separate systems. One to see the world, one to think about what to do, and another one to control their movements. And information got lost at every handoff. A robot that could sort one type of component couldn't handle a slightly different one without being completely reprogrammed. One task, one program. Now look at the right-hand side. What we have now is something called a Vision Language Action Model, or VLA. I think of it as the same kind of breakthrough that large language models were for text, but applied to physical movement. The robot treats its physical actions as just another form of language. It's trained on web images, text, and diverse robot data, so it can understand a spoken instruction like pick up the red box and work out how to do it, even if it's never seen that exact box before. In other words, the robot can generalize. It doesn't need to be reprogrammed for every new situation, and that's a completely different level of capability to anything we've had before. But here's what I think is really important. This isn't a someday story. The threshold has already been crossed. If we look at this graph, which is based on Bank of America research, you can see two things happening at once. The red line is the bill of materials cost for a humanoid robot. So that's the total price of all the raw materials and parts that it needs. In 2025, that's roughly $35,000. And as you can see, the projection is that by around 2030, it falls below $17,000. And that's a fall of more than half over the space of 5 years. At the same time, the blue bars show annual shipments, which are projected to reach around 1 million units by 2030. And that's important because the cost falls precisely because of the volume. It's the same dynamic that we saw with solar panels and electric vehicles. Goldman Sachs, in their 2024 research, estimated that factory applications could reach economic payback in under a year by 2027. Under a year. Now that means that a robot pays for itself in less time than it takes to hire and train a human replacement. And that's before we get to why demand for this is probably going to grow. Now let's look at demographics, because I think this is the single most powerful force behind physical AI adoption. And it's one that doesn't reverse. If we look at this graph of the US labor force, this is the participation rate, you can see a gradual decline that's been going on since roughly the year 2000. So this is the proportion of the workforce which are actually working. Now, from a peak of about 67% in the late 90s down to roughly 62% today. And what's important is the shape of this. It's not a cycle, it's a long-term trend. Now, the US is the clearest example of this, but the underlying pressure is global. We've got aging populations, rising education rates among the young, and long-term shifts in who's willing and able to work. These trends are visible across most developed economies, and that includes the UK, of course. The difference is that in the UK, rising participation amongst older workers has so far masked this demographic headwind, but that offset won't last indefinitely. The result is a labour shortage in manufacturing, logistics, healthcare, and skilled trades that no policy has really solved. Physical AI doesn't fill the gap immediately, but is probably the only thing that can fill it at scale. And that shortage is only made worse by the next force we're going to look at, reshoring. If we look at this timeline, you can see an extraordinary sequence of announcements from 2025. Apple committing $600 billion to US manufacturing, TSMC $165 billion, Micron $200 billion. These aren't small bets, and what's important to understand is that producing in a high-cost country like the United States makes automation economically necessary. The whole business case for these factories depends on robots. And then there's China. If we look at this graph, and this is from the OECD's MAGIC database, and this is the only major cross-country subsidy dataset of its kind, you can see that Chinese manufacturing firms receive roughly 3% of their revenue in government subsidies. That's against roughly a third of 1% in Europe. In other words, 3 to 9 times higher, depending on which sector you look at. China has over 150 humanoid robot companies right now, and the central government's 5-year plan, running from 2026 to 2030, explicitly lists robotics as a strategic priority. And I think the solar industry gives us a pretty clear warning about what happens next. China's top 6 solar companies collectively lost 43 billion renminbi in 2025, and that's despite continuing to receive billions in subsidies. So volume is the goal, profit is not. So Western robot companies will probably face Chinese competition that's priced below cost. So if you're convinced by the structural case, the question becomes, how do you actually invest in this? And that's where this video's sponsor, WisdomTree, comes in. They've just published a research paper called The Case for Physical AI, which lays out many of the same structural drivers that we've been discussing. The demographic pressures, the reshoring wave, the defense catalyst. I'll link it in the description if you do want to go deeper on the data. Off the back of that research, they've launched a dedicated ETF, the WisdomTree Physical AI, Humanoids and Drones ETF, ticker WPAI. It covers the full ecosystem: humanoid robotics, drones and autonomous mobility, smart manufacturing, logistics automation, and also emerging applications like surgical robotics and agricultural automation. It's not just one bet on one company, it's diversified across the whole physical AI value chain. They also have a broader AI ETF, ticker WTAI, which covers the digital side of the AI value chain if you want exposure across both. Links to both of these are in the description below. Now let's look at the company's position to benefit from this trend. And I think the best way to understand the investment landscape is through 6 broad categories, and you can see them on this diagram. At the top, you've got AI and compute. So that's companies like Nvidia and Google who are providing the underlying chips, simulation platforms, and AI models that every robot runs on. Nvidia in particular has positioned itself as what I'd call the Android of physical AI. They're not building the robots, but almost every robot company is building on their platform. Then you've got industrial robotics, the established names like Fanuc, ABB, and Siemens. These companies have been doing this for decades, and they're profitable, they're growing, and they're upgrading their products with AI capabilities. And I think they're probably the lower risk way to get exposure to this theme. Humanoid robots are obviously the most exciting category. Tesla's Optimus, Ubtech's Walker, Symbotic for warehouses. But I'd be cautious here. Most of these are pre-revenue or early stage, and valuations are pricing in the bull case. The other three categories, autonomous mobility and sensing, drones, and specialized applications like surgical robotics and agricultural automation, they give you a sense of how broad this theme really is. Now let's talk about forecasts, and I want to be completely honest here, the range of estimates is enormous, and I think that range is itself the most important thing to understand about this investment. You can see three figures. Goldman Sachs, in their base case, estimates the humanoid robot hardware market reaches $38 billion by 2035. And in their blue sky scenario, that rises to $154 billion. And Morgan Stanley estimates the total ecosystem, which would include supply chains, repair, and maintenance, that would reach $5 trillion by 2050. Now, these numbers look incompatible, and in a sense they are, and that's because they're answering different questions. Goldman is measuring the robot hardware market over 11 years. Morgan Stanley's measuring everything downstream over 25 years. So both could be right, and the honest answer is that nobody knows. What I think we can say with more confidence is that the direction of travel is probably clear, and that the investment case is pretty compelling. If you want listed exposure, the obvious candidates are companies like Nvidia, Tesla, Alphabet, Amazon, Intuitive Surgical, Hyundai, and Fanuc, among others. But if you want thematic ETF exposure, the options are still pretty limited here in the UK. This probably tells you something about how early we are. But for broader robotics and automation, you've got ROBG. That's the LNG Robo Global Robotics and Automation ETF, and that covers the wider automation space. And then for something more targeted at humanoid robots and physical AI specifically, there's KOIB. That's the CraneShares Global Humanoid and Embodied Intelligence ETF. And of course, there's PAIG, the Wisdom Tree Physical AI, Humanoids and Drones ETF, which I mentioned earlier. All three are listed on the London Stock Exchange. Now I want to be clear about the risks, because there are always risks for any investment. Physical AI has been 5 years away for a long time, and the gap between how well a robot performs in a simulation and how well it performs in an actual factory, what engineers call the sim-to-real gap, is a real challenge that doesn't yield easily. Most humanoid robotics companies are pre-revenue. Figure AI is valued at $39 billion, which is pricing in a very optimistic future. And then there's China risk, but it cuts both ways. Chinese competition could compress margins for Western robot companies in the same way it compressed margins in solar. But Chinese robots are also probably the cheapest route to deployment. And if you're a factory owner trying to automate, you might not care who made the robot. I think the honest framing is this, which is that the long-term case is strong, but the timing and the winners are genuinely uncertain. So in conclusion then, physical AI is extending automation from the digital world into the physical one, and it's doing that right now, not in some distant future. The technology's crossed a threshold, costs are coming down as production scales up, and the forces pulling adoption forward, such as aging populations, reshoring, and China's subsidized push, probably aren't going to go into reverse. My view is that this is one of the more interesting investment themes of the next decade, but I'd approach it in diversified fund form rather than concentrated bets on single companies. The picks and shovels approach, so companies like Nvidia, the established industrial robotics companies, and broad ETFs, probably gives you more reliable exposure than trying to pick which humanoid robotics company is going to win. Don't forget the research report from Wisdom Tree. There'll be a link to that in the description below. It's a really good resource. I found it quite helpful. And, as always, thank you for listening.